Your boy making cold cuts, and I ain't talking about the sandwiches. How would you define grit? In the context of grit specifically as an isolated ideal, because it
hmm
involves a lot of other concepts or notions.
Grit to me is just having that dig deep. You gotta have it. That having that dog in you. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable all the time in order to get where you're trying to go.
I think
Because
grit is a threshold on that spectrum of willpower.
you can't see it when you're in it. Your manifestation is happening so fast, you're not even having a chance for the ink to dry.
Because the first step of any conscious action is awareness. What is normal
hmm
versus what is the norm? That's where we talk about intuition. That's
hmm
when you understand things that you don't even know why you understand them. Our collective reality is not the same as our individual realities. If they were, there would be no collection. It would be a hive mind. Willpower is conscious, but when it transforms into grit, it's past the conscious state. It is after you've exasperated everything you think you have that you start activating that grit. Are you willing? This is the difference between people who are successful and not. That's why you always hear grit in conversations about success. Because if you're willing to do the work, success is all but guaranteed. We're
Yeah,
back. Another episode of Let's Get Deep. I
It's
have
deep.
my uncle here with me, Alan Bell. Yes, this is my blood relative. So we go all the way back as far as I go back.
Day one for real.
Day one, as textbook day one as it can get.
Can't get no
Now,
deeper than that.
today's topic is grit.
The grit.
It's grit. I thought about having the dictionary definition pulled up, but I didn't think it would really do us any good. And they got the internet, so they can look it up. And maybe
They
I'll
got
add it.
they got cell phones. They'll be all right.
Yeah, maybe I'll put it across the screen. It depends how I'm feeling when I edit this. But I want to start by giving you the floor. Introduce yourself and speak on why you think I chose you for this specific episode at this topic.
Thank you. Thank you. I am Alan Bell. Obviously, Isaac Bell's uncle. His dad is my blood brother. I'm the owner and CEO of Hannah's Authentic Snowballs and More in Portland, Oregon, and Arizona, and a couple other places. Um, I would assume, and this is just me assuming, that you picked me for this title because I'm assuming that like you said, you've been with me for your whole life or around me. So you know all the stories, you know all the trials and tribulations I've overcame, and we've had many and many of conversations over and over on just life in general. And like, there's never been a time when we had a conversation and it didn't go deep. It's like we don't really do surface conversations. So I would say that just because you've seen my struggle, you've seen my story, you've seen me get knocked down, you've seen me get back up so many times. And in order to do all that, I definitely had to have grit about myself and just about how I went and how I changed my life, how I market my business, how I handle things. That's what I would assume. I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong.
About the gist of it, of like, you know, grit is one of those topics everybody would seemingly believe they understand, but it's one we really don't think about consciously. We don't really talk about either in the context of grit specifically as an isolated ideal, because it
hmm
involves a lot of other concepts or notions. You know, you can't talk about grit without talking about discipline, perspective, mentality, self-image. Like a lot of these things determine one,
Motivation, drives, character,
all
highs,
of it.
lows. Yeah, that
Whether
come
you
with it.
got whether your grit is deep or shallow, these are all ingredients and factors when we try to have a conversation about grit. And so I think a great place to start is, how would you define grit?
How would I define grit? Grit to me, grit is rough. That roughness, that having that dog in you. That when you're told no, you're not accepting no. When you door is being closed, you don't see it as a door being closed. You see it as you still in the hallway with many other doors that you can go open, possibly, and you ready to go tackle that right now. Grit to me is just having that dig deep. You gotta have it. Like it's like you gotta go to a place. You have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable all the time in order to get where you're trying to go. That's where I would say grit is. Because you gotta dig deep for grit. Everybody don't have grit, and grit don't come easy as people would claim to think it do. It's really gotta you didn't have to you'd have to have been through some stuff to have grit about yourself, some real deep grit. And it's like the more stuff you've been through, the more trials and tribulations you've conquered, I think that grit becomes thicker, where you got thick skin and you can handle it. And you get long nights, early mornings. That's what keeps you going. That's grit to me.
Interesting. So it's not that I disagree. I think what you're describing for me and my definition of grit is the way to develop grit.
I
But
can
it
see that.
sounds like you see, like when you describe it in that way, it sounds like grit is something you acquire. I think grit is another, I think if we talked about willpower being a spectrum, I think
Hmm.
grit is a threshold on that spectrum of willpower. If you get your
Explain that. What you mean?
willpower, if you get your willpower developed to a certain degree, it becomes grit. It evolves into grit. If you can command your willpower consciously, that is how you activate grit because
Okay,
it's,
yeah, I can agree
you
with
see what
that.
I'm saying? It's a sliding scale. A lot of people think because they gritty, they always got that grit to activate. And it's just like
Nah, it don't work
anything
like
else.
that.
You see what I'm saying? And that's why a
Yeah,
lot of strong people get crumbled, especially men, especially black men. It's like you think because you're strong and you're tough and you have a thick skin, that grit is always what it is and has always been. And it's like anything or like an instrument. It's like you know, as long as you work it and you feed it, it will work for you and feed you. But as soon as you stop and you start neglecting it, it won't be long before you
it'll
find out.
definitely, it'll definitely weaken up. You'll go get that grit, and you'll find out very fast that you haven't really been
Pile
exercising
is
that.
low.
Yeah, it's definitely not where I. This is not where I left it at. So yeah, no,
Mhm.
I agree with that. I can see how you came to that.
And I think it's funny that you say that. It's like this is not where I left it at. It's that that's exactly what it is. Sometimes it's what we left it at. We
Yeah,
went
yeah,
and used that sponge and we did a whole kitchen's worth of dishes and we didn't wash them up like, oh, now we came back and it's all funky and greasy
and nasty.
because it's been sitting on it. We didn't, you know what I'm saying? It's like that.
Nah, I feel you.
If I was going to personify grit, that's why I think a lot of the conversation around grit is so coarse in its imagery. It's very, you know, it's very, people will speak about it like it's akin to grind. The
Grit
grind is like associated with grit a lot. If you grind and
it's
there's a
grit and grind, but it ain't no grind and grit. I don't know. I gotta ponder that.
because
Because
it's
you
it's
gotta have grit to grind. You do.
it's
You don't have
rectangles
to,
and
but
squares though.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's two totally different things, but you gotta have grit to do it. But they're not the same at all.
They're not the same.
They're not the
And
same.
really, your grit, in a lot of ways, determines how long you can grind. Is where the
You gotta
conversation
dig deep.
is
You gotta
taking
get
us.
that dog. You gotta get that dog out of you. You gotta feed that dog to go to piggyback off what you were saying. You gotta, while you're grinding and gritting and grinding, that's why the saying is gritting and grinding. They're not the same. And while
Two
you're
different things.
grinding and you're using you're exposing that dog to whatever it needs to be exposed to whatever elements, you also have to feed that dog, or that dog will get weak and you will run out of grit. And then you'll just have grind. And to my experience, grinding goes a whole lot better when you have a lot of grit to yourself.
100,000%.
Way,
A
way, it
hundred
goes way
thousand
better.
percent.
Because
It's like
you'll do what the average person isn't doing. You're up late night. While they're sleeping, you're manifesting, you're digging deep, you're visualizing your next move, you're contemplating your next move, you're thinking more than the average person. That's what grit do
and
in
it's that
my life. That's what it's done for me.
and that recipe and understanding of grit, I think, is what allows that depth that you're referring to. Because in the same way that I don't think it's something you acquire, it's something you activate. I think a lot of people have grit. They just don't realize, and it's not deep. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah. They don't even, most people don't even really know they got it.
because
Sometimes you
they
don't know you
haven't
got it
been
until
tested.
and to tell you the truth, now that I just said that, and I'm sitting here thinking on my feet, you don't really know you got it till you kind of gotta, you hit like a wall, and then you got a decision to make. You're like, okay, I'm exhausted. I'm mentally exhausted. I'm physically exhausted. I keep getting told no. And it's like, damn, what am I gonna do? And at that moment, and I almost can pinpoint when I had that moment. I almost can pinpoint it. Um, you be like, you gotta go, like, you know what? And then you activate it. I'm not taking no. I'm not going away. I'm leaving with something. I'm leaving with something.
From around the way.
And I yeah, and I remember I was because it was when I got out of prison, and I was I had I was it was in my I was early in my change process. I was at the point where I had changed, but the people didn't know my change. They hadn't seen my change. They didn't, I could say I was changed. I had said I had changed several other times and I hadn't changed. So it's like, you like I had earned that somewhat respect for the change that I had. And I remember I went, to a certain establishment to where I had a lot of history at and was trying to get a job there. And I feel like they played with me. And that's because that's how my mindset was back then. But now that I have a business and it wasn't they played with me, I was a liability. And they didn't know. They didn't know which way I was gonna go. They didn't know if I was gonna come to work and have a bad day and flip out or nothing like that. So, but when that happened, that activated the grit. I was like, damn. And yeah, I was mad. I definitely had some misguided anger at that point. But I took that anger and instead of just letting that be the excuse that I was gonna run with to run back to the streets and do whatever else I was gonna do at that time. I chose that time to be like, nah, all right, I'm gonna show you now. Now I have to show you how serious I am about this change, how serious I am about, the whole different mindset that I'm on. And that's what I did. I just dug deep. I dug in. I mean, I dug in deep and I ain't stopped. I ain't looked back yet. And now I'm way further in my change process. And now I can look back and see how, because you can't see it when you're in it. You don't see it when you're in it. You don't, it's, if you can, you're a very gifted person. But when you're in said grind mode, gritting, and you're knocking out, you're like it's like almost to a rhythm, a rhythmatic to it, like where you're knocking out goals left and right that you're on your paper. Like your manifestation is happening so fast, you're not even having a chance for the ink to dry. It's like you write it down, and then you already got the play set out in your mind. All right, XYZ. Next you know, the next couple of days, XYZ is done. You're like, damn, you don't see it like that. And then people will come give you these accolades and all these kudos and stuff, and you just like, I don't know for everybody else. For me, I'd be like, I'm just being me. I mean, I'm not really doing nothing special, but it is something special. But you don't see it like that. Just like, you just think oh, I'm just grinding. I'm grinding. It's like, nah, you really tapped into something different. And a lot of people can't tap into that without, having to, or it costs us some stuff. And then, but you got to, for that whole journey, for that whole ride, you have to have a grit that is not of this earth, to so to speak. You have to have it.
Now, there's several things in what you just said that I want to highlight and dig into. The first being this idea of the discovery of one's grit.
Hmm.
Very deep notion because there's one of the concepts you hear me talk about all the time. I would dare I say my most discussed topic or idea in the last 10 years of my life is awareness.
Hmm.
Awareness to me is the light that shines and shows you the different aspects and ideals within yourself. You
Hmm.
can't do anything that you're not aware of
Yeah.
and have it
Yeah.
build. They see a lot of people are in autopilot,
A
but
lot
they're
of
not
people.
aware that they're in autopilot. So that autonomy that they have, that authority that they have, goes unactivated. You
Hmm.
can't levy it because you're not aware of certain things. It's not that you don't have it, it's that you don't have the conscious ability to activate it because the first step of any conscious action is awareness.
The awareness, I think the biggest part on that, people aren't even aware that they have the power in their mouth and in their mind to do whatever they want to do. They're not even aware of that. They're not, and that to me is very scary because, but I understand because there was a point when I didn't know either. And I can't really think it in my mind. I can't really think of, oh, I know when that, became different, but I know I was like that too. But now it's just
Because
like,
it's still changing. And that's the
yeah.
conversation. The other piece of what you're talking about is the continuation of the development of that grit. There is no
Hmm.
point where you will exasperate your grit, but it's almost like it's like a video game where your
Hmm.
mana is constantly regenerating. But if you're using it faster than it's regenerating, it will seem like it's exhausted,
Hmm.
as if it's gone, you've used it up. But if you leave it and you recuperate and you recover, that grit will build back up if you stop using it. The problem is we become so dependent and one dimensional. We allow ourselves to become one dimensional and lean on crutches. Certain crutches keep us in a space of confinement.
They lean on autopilot.
And
That's what
because
it is.
you've
You lean
leaned
on
on it so
autopilot.
much, you forgot all the things that got you to the place to be able to use autopilot. Because
You forgot,
autopilot only works if you got the machinery to support it
you forgot that you could put these crutches down and run if you
and
want to.
do this shit yourself
You
consciously.
can. And I think it boils down to, it's a good conversation because it's like that's what people be mad and jealous about. I never understood it. I swear to God I didn't. And I remember my dad, like he always used to, especially when Candace was really like moving. Every time I would go see him and when it was time to leave, he'd be like, be careful. I'm like, I'm selling snowballs, man. What am I being careful for? He was like, I said, Dad, all I'm doing is inspiring people and just showing them, there's other stuff we could do out here. He said, yeah, that's what you doing, but that don't mean that's how people seeing it. I'm like, what you mean? Like, everybody wants to be inspired. And he told me, he's like, no, they don't. Everybody don't want to be inspired. And it kind of, me, you know who the individual we're talking about. I'm like, he tripping. But now, fast forward a couple of years, he was right. And he was really letting me know, like, because with the grind and the grit, with the grit, it's a dirty grit. The grit is dirty. But when you're activating your grit and you're using it to its full potential, it causes you to illuminate. And with that illumination, you begin to shine. And so you thinking, oh, I'm in the trenches, I'm down, I'm digging, I'm digging, but everybody else is like, you shine. And
Bruce
I
Lee
want to
gonna
know,
kick out the globe.
he got the glow. And I want to know why I ain't found mine. And but like I said, when you in it, you don't even see that. You don't even feel like that. It doesn't even register to you. You're like, man, what are you hating for? But they hating because you're shining. And you don't but you don't see you shining. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes that I participated in because I knew I'm doing stuff. I still last night somebody at a little function that I went to. Uh, some guys got me like in the corner. We just chopping it up, just talking, and then they just started going in about me, like that's Alan, that's Big Alan, that's that's him, this, and so I'm me, I'm a real modest dude. I'm like I'm not doing nothing. Can't nobody else do. And they like no, but you're doing what a lot of people aren't doing though. You have a positive mindset. And I have to reiterate, I'm like, my mindset ain't always positive now. Don't I have my days. That's just I choose not to put that into the world. I choose to not put that into the atmosphere because I know that that comes back to me. So I don't do that. I'd rather if I've always said this, one of my biggest sayings is if I'd rather speak life to you than I speak death to you. Because for so many years I spoke death and uh that's just what it was. It was a different side from. So now when I speak, I'm aware that my words hold weight, and that's not just because I'm me, but just because words hold weight. And I don't think a lot of people don't realize that what you speak into the world is what you sow, and that's why I kind of trip off people like getting up every day and wanting to get on the internet just to argue. I'm like, that's the craziest thing to me. Like you telling me you woke up, you seen a post, and you didn't have enough coof to scroll on by. No, you want to engage and disagree with them and tell them why they wrong, and that's crazy to me. Before I even get on the internet, I'd have woke up, prayed over my kids, prayed over me, prayed over my health, prayed over my kids, my all the kids attached to me, and then I'm ready. Then I open up my phone and all that, and
But
then
you
I'm
say
still.
this now at what
I said
age?
now. I said now at 40, at 46. Yeah, back in the
Everybody's
day.
not 46
Yeah,
with
yeah,
X amount of experience and wake up
yeah.
calls and people pouring into them and increasing their awareness.
Yeah. Shout out to my mom. My mom poured a lot into me. She taught me a lot. Even when I didn't know she was teaching me, she taught me a lot. She left me with everything I needed to advance in this life without her. Shout out to her. That's a big key. That's a big part of it.
Mhm. But I also want to highlight, and again, I do know who we're talking about, but there's an important piece of this conversation when you talk about he was right. It's not that he was right because he knew it was another iteration of you who was further along in the movie. He's like, I've seen how this plays out.
Ah, I didn't. Yeah, I never looked at it like that.
That's the difference
That's
between.
crazy. That's deep right there. I never
I'm
looked at it
like,
like that.
we finna start getting deep. That's the
That's
difference
crazy. I've
to
never looked
me.
at that like that.
You see, like somebody like me, you always hear people telling me I'm wise beyond my years. It's the difference for me is wisdom is when experience and awareness synergize to give you understanding.
Hmm.
That's what Pops was really trying to give you. He's trying to expedite your path based on information he has to give. And he's like, you either take it or you don't. You will run into the answer. Whereas for me, when I talk about, being tapped into the source, you're talking about praying and like that's not wisdom in the way that I just described it. To me, that's where we talk about intuition. That's
Hmm.
when you understand things that you don't even know why you understand them. And a lot of what you were talking about before and why we have to talk about the distinctions between these things in a very concrete way where people don't put energy into thinking about these things. They don't consciously dig through this muck and try to
Hmm.
like look at it and examine it. And so we don't notice these nuances become ley lines. They become the things that separate but overlap in the sense of a lot of people think wisdom it's something they got and they gather. And it's like, no, you gather experience and you increase your
Yeah.
awareness. That results in wisdom, but intuition gives you access to all of it.
Don't forget about discernment too.
See, but discernment is a whole nother tier I
Discernment,
ain't want to
discernment,
get
yeah.
into.
Discernment, yeah, that's all. That's a topic in
That's
itself.
a whole nother bag in
Because
itself.
discernment is the gift that you get. It's like foresee, it's like foresight. It is foresight. Where I like to say discernment is playing the tape all the way through. And you have to have a gift to be able to do that, to play the tape all the way through. And be like,
What
you
do you
know
mean
what?
by that?
Nah, you gotta play it with me. I used to make decisions based upon emotions. I'm a very emotional person. I still kind of do to this day, but I be checking myself. I have to. I have friends and I have people close to me where they'll check me, like, "Hey, you tripping?" And I'm like, "All right, tell me if I'm tripping now. Because if I'm tripping, I'll step back and take a look at myself. But if I ain't tripping, I'm full of steam." So when I say you discernment and you got to take that step, you have to play the take through. You gotta like, let's say you got a scenario. Somebody did this or somebody did that. Okay, you want to react. Either you're gonna be hostile or you're gonna be passive aggressive, or you're gonna try something new. You're gonna try a new angle, and then playing the tape all the way through is going through all those reactions and playing through to the end. Because a lot of people don't play through to the end. They just play through to the reaction, and then they don't play through to the person's rebuttal and all the possibilities of the rebuttal that they can say. And then they end up in a situation where they didn't see it coming because they didn't play the tape all the way through. If you knew you flipped out on this person for something, they have every right to flip out back on you. They don't have to, but they have every right to. And if you don't play that tape all the way through, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna find yourself in a bad position where you got to rethink some shit. Like, oh, whoa, 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 why did they do that? Because you did
Or
X,
a
Y, and
cycle.
Z. It's a cycle, yeah, or it's a cycle, and it's a lot of that going on. A lot of insanity is going on in the world right now, to where people are. I low key want to say they identify with the insanity, with the chaos. A lot of people live in chaos. A lot of people identify with chaos, and their life has to be chaotic for them to have
Feel
a
comfortable
identity. Yeah,
because that's
yeah.
become their norm.
Well, and that is scary in itself. Just think about that. Just think about somebody being at peace, but they're not peaceful because they're at peace. They're not used to that. And there's people
See,
like that.
this is what you gotta, this is the other layer to that in this specific point is that it's the same principle of what you were describing earlier when we talk about what is normal
Hmm.
versus what is the norm. Because
Hmm.
people think the norm is short for what is normal, and it's not. Normal, as we use it in common speech, really
Hmm.
is a pseudonym for average. There's a
Okay.
there's a collective societal definition, like money. Money is currency. You see what I'm saying? In America, we're talking about money. I'm talking about US dollars. I'm not talking about yen.
US dollar currency.
But in Japan, if I say money, they know I'm talking about yen. They're not talking about yen.
Yen.
You see what I'm saying? That's the normal. The normal is the average understanding within society, whereas the norm is more subjective to you. and your reality. And the reason I take us back earlier in the conversation where you're talking about you don't realize it when you're in it because
No,
your norm is based on your reality.
your
The
interception, your
norm
perception,
is
your
based off
interactions,
our
and all that.
collective reality.
Yeah,
Our collective reality is not the same as our individual realities. If they were, there would be no collection. It would be a hive mind.
I agree.
That's now, let me unpack this further because this is deep. I wasn't even going to go to this point, but it's important for us to understand when we talk about grit, grit is the same for everybody, but it manifests drastically different for
Drastically,
everybody.
drastically.
For you, grit may look different than for a white suburban mom. It's not that you got more grit or she got less grit. You both got grit, but you don't activate it in the same situations because you're not in the same reality.
No, ooh, shit. Ooh,
It's not going to work for you in the same
my
reality.
grit and a soccer mom's grit is two totally different things.
It's way different, but I
Totally different.
promise you couldn't be a soccer mom because you're not built for it. You
I'm
don't know
not.
that
I'm not.
it's
I'm
not your
not.
norm. It's
It's
not
not
your
my no.
norm.
It's not. I'm not, and I agree wholeheartedly. I agree.
You're not
I
going to
know that to
shine in
be
that
true.
role.
I know that. Ooh,
That's not what you built your
Jesus,
grit to work like.
nigga, this is deep.
A trumpet don't make tuba sounds, but they're the same. The instrument gets made with the same material. They both got to put the little in the front. The notes saying no, but the built they built it different from the jump, so the sound is different.
You know what's crazy? Going off of what you're saying, I can write down verbatim, detailed, everything it takes to run handles. A soccer mom could write down her day. This is what I do. This is how I execute it. This is what I do. This is how I execute it. She's not gonna have a good day in that car. I'm not gonna have a good day in that van. Even though I told you everything, you know
Because
why?
it's deep.
Because the grit are different.
What it takes to
She's
execute.
exercised. She's exercised that grit for X amount of years.
Don't even
She's
autopilot.
she's low, yeah, she's low key on autopilot now with it. Where the grit is grunt is taking her where drop off, pick
10,000
up,
hours.
shopping, da 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 back here. She has a shout out to the single moms. They're amazing people. I'm sorry. They're amazing people. They have a different vision of the whole world in their day. And that goes notice it really shouldn't because it should be studied. And so I could tell her what to do in my cart and I can lay it out for her. This is I could train her and everything and step away. She's still gonna struggle. Just like if she gives me that van key, I'm gonna fall. I'm gonna be calling her within an hour. Hey, hey, I can't do this. Come get me. What do you mean? You just gotta do some drop off and pick. And I'm only dropping off and picking up. And she's gonna
Until
be
you
like,
get there and they asking all these questions and you don't got no answers and you said all the things we think we gave all the information because that's as deep as our consciousness went,
and go. Yeah, it goes. Yeah,
but
that's
it's
deep.
so much deeper than our consciousness.
That's deep. I never
And
looked at it
this is
like
where we started with grit. Grit, willpower is conscious. But when it transforms into grit, it's past the conscious state. You're in the subconscious state. It is after you've exasperated everything you think you have that you start activating that grit. That's why a lot of people with sports who've played sports at a high level understand this principle and this notion because you think every time they tell you to run them suicides, them miles, you're like, I can't do it. Can't run no
can't do
more.
it.
You done already
Can't do
thrown up. Your body's shaking. But then
it.
you run three more. Because they told you got three
You
more.
dig deep. You gotta dig deep.
And you realize you had three more in you.
You didn't even know it.
You would have never even tried it unless you felt like you had to. And
Yep.
that's where that willpower separates and becomes grit. It's like a
Somebody,
Digimon.
somebody, somebody has to push you. Somebody has to challenge you.
Somebody has to make you aware.
It's like when you become like a jogger. I remember when I was a jogger, and it was like, I'm thinking I'm doing good. I was doing good because I wasn't able to jog yet for a long period of time or whatever. But then it got to where I was doing 3 miles easy, like it was nothing. And then this dude that used to run all the time, he would see me on the trail or whatever, and he'd be like, you ain't pushing yourself. And I'm like, what you mean, man? I ain't pushing myself. He's like, nah, you gotta dig a little deeper. I think you got more in there. I'm like, nah. He's like, but God willing, he's like, just come with me. I'm gonna slow my pace up because this man is running like it's nothing. So he said, I'm gonna slow down. And at one point, he even got behind me and was pushing me. And so I'm doing it because I'm open to it. And then like the first two was cool, it was a little struggle. And I had already did my three. So I'm like, man, this extra innings right now. And he's like, don't think about that. Just keep going. Just keep your feet moving. And I'm like, all right, all right, all right, all right. So then it gets to the point where I couldn't breathe. He said, no, that's where I need you at. I'm like, what? He said, just trust me, man. Just trust me. I'm like, and keep in mind, I know the guy, but he's like a total stranger in the world of worlds. So I'm like, all right, man. So then we kept doing it, and then like around that third and a half, when we're almost to that next barrel, it's like he showed me how my second win came. It's very distinctive. I don't know if you've ever had your second win kick in. It's like you activate your other lung, and then it opens up, and then you like, whew, now I got another three in me. I feel it in my body. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. He said, yeah. And so he's talking to me as it happens. He was like, yeah, you feel that? He said, yeah, we just broke that other lung open. You got a whole reserve that you're not even tapping into. And he said, all you got to do is keep breathing. And that's what he was. He was like, just focus on your breathing. Your body will do the rest. And then I remember when he did it, and then he just let me
Let me
go.
stop you right here in this story because this is the concrete example to explain and digest these same topics that you keep hearing me say in all of our conversations about the separation between your consciousness and your subconsciousness. You've heard me tell you this before, but with this story in mind, it's going to hit way different because you don't tell your body to beat your heart. You don't
Mm-mm.
tell it to
You
pump
don't.
your blood.
You don't.
You don't even tell it to send the signals. It's not a controller that you double X X B Y back back. That's my special move. You don't press those inputs. Your brain does it for you.
Yes.
You said lift my
Yes.
right foot, crack my knuckles, crack my neck, blink. Your brain puts in the specific keys
Hmm.
on a subconscious level. You just tell it consciously what you're trying to do. Same principle because your consciousness is autopilot. That's what people
Hmm.
don't understand. If you're thinking about it, that is autopilot. What happens when you start playing with the manual controls?
Man. You got to play with it to see what it really do.
But there's a lot of risk in it. It's hard because you
Man.
can't turn off auto. You know you can't. So you literally cannot stop yourself from breathing to death unless you take external factors. You can't just tell your body stop breathing and die. You'll pass out. That's the closest you could get. You'll pass out and your body be like, all right,
All right.
we finna start breathing now. I don't know what this nigga was doing, but all right, he's out.
I'm sick of this shit.
You can't even, I'm like, there's certain things your body will not allow you to do. And that's because subconsciously, your desire to live and survive, and there is a whole set of what they call primitive instincts,
Hmm.
is really the safeguards of your body. It's your will to live is so much deeper than any of us realize. That's why the study of suicide really has nothing to do with the will to live. It's a mentality and perspective about the reality and your ability to influence and control it. That leads to depression, and depression is a whole thing onto its own. Depression is all external. but it
Yeah,
only manifests internally.
that's heavy.
Shit's deep. It's
Because
deep
you don't even realize you're depressed until it's probably too late.
until you feel it.
Until you feel like, wait a minute, why am I?
That's like when you get shot. You like, I got shot, and the blood already leaking out of you.
Yeah, you know what? And when you get shot, you don't feel the pain until you register that you got shot. Because other than that, you just like, what was that? Oh shit, I got shot. Damn, whoa, wait a minute. Ah, you weren't just screaming a second ago.
Because it's two separate facets of reality. And this is why when we started talking about grit, I wanted to distinguish these ideas of like ley lines, separations that overlap. It's like a cord or a wiring. These things are all intertwined and they become one coil, but it's a lot of different strings. Individual strings come together to make that into a much
Mhm.
stronger, thicker thing that all have the same function. It's just like cells in our body. All of our skin cells work together to make skin, but there's very different types of skin at different layers with different cells with different jobs. But it's crazy because
Yeah, with different functions.
I was talking about cancer the other day with somebody, and I was telling them I remember distinctly. I went to OHSU one time because I was in this biotech program, and they were talking about cancer decades ago. And so he was talking about how cancer is literally just there. Our body starts out, all the cells that get produced are the same cell. A cell is the same chemical makeup. You like a cell, it will produce and multiply, and in the process, I'm drastically oversimplification, like drastic oversimplification. Anybody watching this, but understand this is the principle at its core of like the cellular process or life cycle. When a cell is born, it is a cell that it has not been labeled on what its process or purpose is. Now, there's different primordial cells of like when stem cells were a huge thing. It's because stem cells, in theory, were unregistered cells. And if we could program these cells to be
You said, yeah,
specific cells, then we could do a lot of things. But the idea of cancer is a cell that gets stuck in a cycle on that process. And the process that it's in is multiplication. There is no purpose, there is no process outside of multiplying. And those cells all multiply, 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 and becomes a tumor. And it becomes a sickness because they just multiply and die, multiply and die. And now you got all this dead tissue in you. That's just multiply, die, multiply, die, multiply, die. And the reason I bring this up and why it's so crucially specific to the conversation that we're having is that is again a concrete example of what happens to us in life, determined by our awareness and our perspective. If you think you can't do anything past this point, you don't do anything past that point. And you spend your entire life cycle on step one of what you could have accomplished. And you die before you ever accomplish anything. You multiply and you die. You become cancerous. And that mentality starts to spread to the other cells or human beings around you.
yeah, absolutely.
Opposed to if you're a stem cell where you're constantly evolving and changing and doing multiple things and believing that you can do multiple things, you start to inspire the other cells around you. You start to engage them and re-energize them, and they start believing and thinking they can
That's
do
what a
these
stem
other
cell is?
drastic oversimplification. Drastic oversimplification. But as an analogy and as an allegory, that's in a sense, in a very oversimplified sense, that is what stem cells do. In theory of why we wanted to use them so drastically is because a stem cell comes from a fetus. A fetus is the un it's the unborn building blocks of life. You're still in the womb. Your body is building itself. So it's creating the cells that become the skin cells. It's creating the cells that become the lung cells. Do you see what I'm saying? Like it
Yeah.
creates all of those things had to come from the same initial source.
Mhm.
And so this is what we're saying is like these things get so layered, but we don't look at things in terms of principle process. The process is the same. It's just like when we talk about like I'm watching this anime right now. It's called Doctor Stone. It's like everybody gets petrified and they're back to the Stone Age, but there's one dude from who was regular and he was like a scientist and he's like, bro, I got all this knowledge from how this shit used to be. Now we got to put in the dirty work to get back there. But it's like you can make ramen in the Stone Age. You just have to know the process.
You have to know the process to do it.
We don't got no machines doing the process for us. So now we got to manually labor. We got to collect the resources. We got to do the chemical reaction. We have to do that. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah,
we're not used to that because we've simplified everything. That's where the processed foods, that's by definition what processed foods mean. We processed it. We made the
yeah,
process so expedient and efficient that it is no longer real food. We didn't, you see what I'm
yeah.
saying?
It's killing us, killing us.
We juiced the chickens full of steroids so that they would grow faster and bigger. So they're
And
not
kill
even
them
chickens
faster.
anymore.
Yeah, that's something else.
But this is the same. Do you see how it's the same principle? When you rush it, you ruin it. That's what that speaks to. Because instead of putting in the work that we talked about, going through the things, when we talk about grit, this is the difference. Are you willing? This is the difference between people who are successful and not. That's why you always hear grit in conversations about success. Because if you're willing to do the work, success is all but guaranteed. Anything you don't have, you can work towards getting. It is very rare to find an industry that hard work doesn't matter. They say hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Because no matter how talented you may have started further along in the process, but you're still in one spot in the process. It's the tortoise and the hare. It's all the same principle. Pace is not the principal factor for success or even for accomplishment. You see what I'm saying? If I finish 10,000 hours in one day and you finish 10,000 hours in 10 years, we both finished 10,000 hours. What's the difference?
What was the question?
If I finish 10,000 hours in
Hmm.
one day and you finish 10,000 hours in 10 years, what is the difference between those 10,000 hours we put into the same task?
Time,
Hmm?
time, I guess.
What does time buy us? In real life sentences of like, if I do it in one day, I probably make no mistakes. It's the only way I could do 10,000 hours on. Obviously, it's not possible, but again, you see what I'm saying? Like, if I did it so fast, I had to be maximum efficiency, right?
Hmm.
If it took you 10 years, the only difference is what you gained in that 10 years that I missed out on. It's all dependent upon the perspective. Some people will say, I saved myself 9 years and 364 days, that I filled that time with something else. While others have the wisdom to understand when it comes to doing that task, if something goes out of the ordinary, I won't know what to do because I did that shit the first time in one day. I only know
Yeah,
what it looked like one way.
yeah. I don't know the other one.
I don't know the other way. You got 10 years of other shit was happening that delayed you from doing it how I did it. And see if you have the right perspective, instead of thinking about how much longer it took you than it took me, you'll understand, yeah, but ain't no way that this could go that I haven't already seen.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Nah, yeah, I get that.
It's a lot I just threw at you, but
That is a lot.
it's all the same. The difference is how deep are you willing to go? How much have you developed that grit? It's just like it's the ocean is too deep for us to explore. Like, when you realize there's parts of the seafloor we have still not seen after all this time on the planet as a human society, there's still stuff we ain't seen.
Yeah.
People like It's not something you can fathom because it's that level of deep.
Yeah.
We can't even
Because we haven't,
survive
'cause we haven't even seen it or touched it or can't even fathom it.
because we can't survive it.
Yeah.
Because the deeper you get, the greater the pressure increases. It's the same. Do you see how that's the ocean is literally the building blocks of life? That's why most of our planet is covered in it. It's the do you,
Yeah.
like it's the
Yeah.
same principle. The deeper you go, the harder it's going to be on you.
The harder it is to breathe.
But the more you understand and see and can connect, the more principles you understand, the more principles you can apply, the more situations you can be calm, cool, and collected in because it's not new to you. You know how they say, I'm true to this, I'm not new to this. What does that really mean?
Yeah. Because I ain't new to it. I've already experienced it. I
What
can
else
already
do
tell
you
you.
got that I ain't seen?
Yeah. What else you got for me?
Because if you did have something, I would be new to this.
I would be new to that. I'm not new to what you're putting down. I'm not. I already got that.
Same principle.
I feel that.
Heavy is the head. That's why a lot of people, it's not that, see, a lot of people who have acquired when you don't have that humility or that empathy or that sympathy, it's very easy to compare still. People don't understand judgment is a facet of comparison, and comparison is the enemy of success and happiness and joy. As soon as you start comparing to somebody else, you already made a mistake because any direction you go from there is not going in a healthy place, no matter how you do it. Whether you think that person is the greatest person ever and you want to use them to inspire you, you're not comparing. True inspiration does not come from a place of comparison.
No, absolutely not. I know that to be very true.
It's deep. It's so deep in you, you don't even realize what's happening. It comes from a place of intuition. It's a game recognized game. You see something in them that you can't see in yourself, but resonates deep inside you.
Yeah.
Grit is the tool you use to dig that shit out.
And yeah, it is. Grit is the tool that's grit is the companion that you take when you deep dive into yourself to go get that inner child and to not fix but to heal that child. You have to have the grit to do that. Because the level that you have to go back down to the subconscious level that you have to deep dive into and sit in, you have to have grit to withstand it.
The pressure
Amen. Yeah,
continues to rise. If you don't have protections built around you, it will crush you.
absolutely. That's deep.
Do you know what hypoxia is?
No.
This is an analogy, and I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I could be using the wrong medical term, but essentially, when you're in the ocean, if you go deep sea diving, if you come back up too quickly, you'll die. There's this the disease. I'm pretty sure it's called hypoxia, but it might be something else. I keep using this up because it's the same. It's another facet. It's another layer of depth to the principal analogy that we're describing or comparison that we're making to real life. When you build those protections, it is something you built over time with experience. As you continue to go deeper, you have to do the process slowly because if you do it too quickly, it will
You
destroy
die.
you.
Yeah. Yeah. You'll die. It's just like when you come from the sea, you can't just come up. It's levels to this shit. You have to take every precaution or your lungs will explode.
You will die.
You will die.
It's the same principle. It's just manifest physically in our world, but we don't think about this shit. People go through shit and they're like, so what? And then wonder why that's not enough. Why they still like they telling everybody else they're okay, but they're not okay.
Absolutely not.
They think they're okay. They don't realize they're not okay. Just like you don't realize you dying when you swimming up, you don't realize you dying. You just dead. They had the autopsy. The first nigga who died from hypoxia, he didn't know how he died. He had no idea. He thought he was dying from being in the water.
No, he was dying from something else.
And it wasn't until that awareness kicked in that he
Oh
realized,
shit. Oh shit.
let me
All
slow
right.
down. By
All
slowing down and
right.
calming down, I actually extend my life
Yeah, you don't know that until it's too late.
till you slow down.
You
If you
slow
slow down.
down. If you got enough discernment and to know that if you have enough, like, wait a minute, if you played the tape all the way through, like, wait a minute,
Do you see
maybe
how
I should
this
chill out. Maybe I should
came all
chill
the way
out.
back around?
Yeah, maybe I should chill out. Yeah, maybe I'll have a little bit more in me.
You rush it, you ruin it. And grit is that's a tool that helps you slow down and endure the process with the right mindset.
I wish everybody grit and discernment. It's not easy to come by. And
Gotta be
your grit and your discernment ain't gonna be like everybody else's.
because your world and your reality, your path ain't like everybody else's.
Not.
But are you thankful that it's not like everybody else's? Or are
I
you
am.
beating yourself up?
At one point, I used to beat the shit out of myself about it. I used to ask God all the time, why I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Why is this person doing it? Like, they ain't even a good person. Like, what's going on? Talk to me, man. What's up? Do I gotta be a scumbag in this motherfucker?
But you didn't see what made
And
them into that scumbag.
I didn't. I didn't.
You
I
didn't endure what
didn't.
they endured to get turned into that scumbag.
Didn't even have the slightest thought pattern about it. I didn't. I just all I knew is they was had something I had. I didn't have, and I wanted it.
At the time.
I wanted that favor. I wanted that grace at that time. And it wasn't my time. I had to realize that it wasn't my time. Big difference.
And all that glitters ain't gold.
Nah, it's not.
But we've been on for a minute. We done definitely got deep.
I
So I want to thank you for joining me.
want to thank you for
I
having me. This is
appreciate
first and foremost, I want to tell you I love you. And I
you. I love you
appreciate you.
too.
You know, the conversations that we have outside of here is always there's never been a time that I haven't talked to you, even as a 46-year-old man to you, always walked away with something to think about, something to ponder about, and something to, I gotta look at myself. I don't really, there ain't too many people that can make me look at me, but you always be like, and I don't know if it's just the way that you say it or the way you come across. It'd be like you always make me dig deeper and be like, no, Uncle, I understand what you're saying, but just look at it from this perspective, or look at it from this one. And I'll be like, sometimes a lot of times I don't want to look at it from somebody else's perspective. It's my perspective that matters. But you're the one that always tests the envelope like, no, you have to. That's the only way it's gonna work. So I just want to tell you, I appreciate you. I appreciate your mind. I appreciate your grit, and I love you. I want to make sure I told you that. I tell you that all the time, but I love you. You know what's up. You know
I
how we get down.
appreciate you. I love you. And I don't even got the words to tell you what you've added to my life and how you helped my development and growth. I thank God for you all the time. At the same breath that I'm praying for you all the time. So really only God knows.
God, only God knows, because I
But
know.
I
I know I can.
believe that he imparts to you. That's partially why you be receiving what I be telling you. Because he's communicated to you the things that I cannot.
Yeah, you always come along when it's like you really tuned in because you can feel when my frequency is off, and that's when you'll always call. What's up? I heard from you. What's going on? And that right there is a loaded question with us. You know that. Like, what's going on? How you doing? Next thing you know, we 2, 3 hours into it, and
My spidey senses was
I,
tingling.
I'm irritated. You frustrated.
That's the work. That's the
Yeah,
pressure.
yeah, I get it.
We true to this. We not new. We
Yeah,
comfortable being uncomfortable.
I am. I had to learn that. That's a learned behavior.
It's an acquired taste.
It is. But shit, I
But
love you, Neff.
with that,
Keep doing what you're doing.
we're gonna end it, man.
Somebody gonna listen. Somebody gonna get something from it. I mean, I
That's
know they
all
are.
I can hope for.
We talked about too much for nobody to not get nothing from it. It's too much.
Shit was deep.
It was. I didn't even realize that was gonna be like that until we just got into it.
And that's how I know I hit the mark.